Now that we've got this really cool ornate revolve in our scene, we're going to add a handrail to this, and I'm going to use existing geometry to form a handrail. Okay, so I'll click on this shape here. It's a little funky right here, so what I am going to do is simply duplicate it. So I'll go to mesh, edit mesh, duplicate. So I have to go to object mode, and there's my object, right? Now I'll simply click on modify center pivot. I'll press Control 1 so I can isolate it right now. And I'm going to delete a few of these edges, or vertices. So there we go. I'll press Control 1 again. Alright, now I'll go to my side view, and I'm going to go to Create, Curve Tool, EP Curve. So I want this handrail to be really ornate. So that's my EP curve here. And then I'm going to click again and like round it off. I'll do something like this. Now I'm going to change the size of that by pressing R. Scale it down, move it up. I'll maybe scale it down a little bit more and move it up. Alright, so let's take a few of these vertices and our control vertex points. I'm going to move them around. I can actually delete a few if I don't need them. Alright, so that looks good to me. Now you can do this the old-fashioned way if you want, and old-fashioned by all means is sometimes ideal. I'm just creating it like this. So 3 different ways of creating this handrail. All right. First way is to select, that face here. If you have a hard time duplicating that, I'm totally not opposed to creating a polygon plane and putting it right here. Okay. First way of doing it, Control E, press W, move it down like that, right? Get the angle that you want, and then you can simply bevel those edges. All right, that looks fine. I'm happy with that. Okay, that's one way. Okay, multiple ways of doing this. All right, I'll go back to that same shape. Okay, the second way of doing this, well, first of all, I need to get my curve to be right in front of that face. So modify center pivot. I'll move it over here. Voila. Okay. And then I'll take that face. I'll go to face. I'll select it. I'll hold Shift. Alright, so I have this face selected. I'm going to hold Shift and select the curve and press Control E. So now I'm going to add divisions to it. See? And I get some really cool options in my outliner. My channel box editor. And I know that Maya is going to crash on me if I go to my channel box editor and change it. So I'm going to make some alterations to this particular shape in my attribute editor. For some reason it doesn't like it. So here my attribute editor. It says poly extrude face. And then I'll scroll down here. It says I have divisions 19, 20. This is fine with me. I can change the offset, the thickness, and there's another one here. It says twist and taper. So if I twist it, it does that. Right? If I click taper, it makes the tip much smaller. So let me go to this view. It makes the tip much smaller. You see? Almost like a ram's horn. So I'll change the twist back to 0, and and change the taper to look like that. I'll close it. Now the cool thing with this shape is that we can always modify it because we have a curve in here. I go to Control Vertex and I can simply move that curve, the control points around. Alright, perfect. So now that I have the desired handrail, okay, again, either way works. Alright, using a polygon plane and extruding it, or using this type of shape. I'm going to add an edge loop right about here, and another one right about here, and one more right about there. So I put them in strategic places because I want to make an extrude straight down. I'll press Control E, press W, and move it down like so. I'll press R to scale them flat. Actually, let's just do this. I'll take the vertices. I'll press R, scale them flat. Take those vertices, make them flat. Make those guys flat, and I'll move them up. So it's a little bit off. So before I do, I'm actually going to go back a few steps when I added the edge loops and try to use my grease pencil. Actually, I use my curve tool to help me get a better sense of alignment. I'll go to EP curve tool. I'll click here, hold shift, and go straight up. So this line is just like a reference for where I need to place my insert edge loops. So I go to create, modify center pivot, Control D, I'll move this guy over. So that's where I need to put my center pivot. Control D, I'll move this right here. So these lines are just a guide for me of where I need to place my insert edge loop tool on this object. Okay, so I'll go to Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop Tool. I'll click one here, one right there, 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 so they're all the same size. Perfect. Now I can select these curves, delete them, go to Edge, go to Face, select that face, that one, Control E. Move them straight down. I'm not a big fan of like taking geometry and pushing it straight through it. So I'm going to delete the faces I don't see. Go to vertex mode. Scale them flat. Press W. And I'll hold V to snap it to the ground. Alright, now I want to polish this, and I don't like this edge right here, so I'll double click. And the reason why I don't like it is because when I add a bevel, it's not going to bevel really nice. Command E. I'll take that face here, I'll press R and scale it down. Like that. Now I'm just going to double click on this edge, hold shift, double click this edge, that one, these ones on the inside here, highlight all of those, hold shift, and oops, I'm going to bevel. Almost forgot that. Almost forgot those guys. And finding more edges. Okay, that looks great. So the next step is to go to Mesh, Edit Mesh, Bevel, And I can change the fraction and the segments. Change it to 4. And there we go. My handrail. Alright. Now this handrail could be on either side. Alright, you can have one here or you could put one here. Right. If you were to move it over, you can simply select the floor. Move that guy over like this. Press delete. Now this curve still has history. So if I press delete, look what happens, right? So we want to go to edit, delete by type history, and now we can take that curve and delete it. Alright? So there's my handrail. I'm happy with that. I want to add a little bit more detail to this kind of overhang here. So I'll go to edge, I'll select these edges, that edge, that one here, those two on that side, that, this one, here, here, and there. And right there on the inside. And now we'll go to Edit Mesh, Bevel, add some segments. And oops, I forgot one more edge, actually, right there. So Edit Mesh, Bevel, add more segments, and there we go. Now it's doing something really weird at that corner, so I'm going to press Z to undo. And maybe I'll just bring that bevel all the way around. Edit mesh. There we go, that looks better. Alright. Change the fraction, 0.3. And there we go. Alright, so I have the detail I want on my patio. Now I'm going to create the doorknob. Alright, the doorknob. So I go to my side view and I'm going to create this shape. Alright, it's going to look like it'll go straight, it'll go flat, and then I'll add this kind of shape. I'll make it round, and this is where the keyhole is. So it looks like that. It's really weird, but it'll look really nice when it's finished. So I'll go to Create, Curve Tool, EP Curve Tool. So I'll kind of like zoom in like this. So hold Shift to create a straight line. So for something a little more intricate, I'm using more control points. Press return, modify center pivot, and so there's my shape right there. Alright, I'll get rid of that grease pencil tool, zoom in on this object, and I'm going to straighten a few of these edges or the control vertex points by doing this. Just like these guys. You don't have to do this. This is something that I like to do, but by all means, it's up to you. Okay. And I'm going to make this area a bit more flat. Okay. So it's not a perfect doorknob. The camera won't be that close to it, but it'll be evident. So I'll go to my perspective view. I'll zoom in really close. I'll hold D. I'll click on that little yellow square, I'll put it right on the curve. So my finger is still on D. Off of D, it's on D, right? And then I'll hold C. Watch that yellow square turn to a circle square. So what I'm telling it now is to snap to the curve. So now it's snapping right to the curve. You can eyeball this, or you can do it the way I did. And I want it to revolve that way, right? So it's going to revolve around the Z-axis. Surfaces, revolve option box, X, Y, Z, polygon, quad, general, per span number of isopalms for the U-type, V-type, the number of U, the number of V are the same, revolve, and voila. There is my doorknob. So now if I press 3, it's good. Alright, so modify, center pivot. I'll move this guy over. I'll press F to frame in, and I'll put it like right there. It looks a little bit too big for me, so I'll scale it down. Alright. I think for me, scale is, well, for anyone that's modeling, scale is really important, okay? Scale is really important. You can press Control D to move it up, like that. I'm going to highlight there. So I have half those faces selected. I'm probably creating the next part extremely hard, but it's fine. I'll hold Shift and press period, and you can see it's growing a selection. And I'll press delete. Now I'll go to edge. I'll select double click on that edge. And I'll click mesh, fill hole. Alright. I'm going to modify this shape, so I'll double click this edge, hold shift, double click this edge. I'll press command delete. So it just changes it up a little bit. And what else should I do? I'll select that face, this face, command E. Let's press 1 real quick. I'll press W to move it out like this. One more time. I'll extrude. And then I'll take that face, this face, that, this, that, these two, and go to edit, mesh, bridge. So there's your little, I don't know, the lock area. You can clean this up. You can make it any other way you want it to. I just didn't feel like creating a totally different shape. So I'm just going to scale these guys in a little bit. So it's perfect. Now I'll press 3. Okay. There you go. Not perfect geometry, but it works. I'll scale it down. Maybe you rotate it or something. Alright. Doorknob. Looks great. Next thing, we're going to move on to our blinds. I want to actually bevel this edge because 90-degree angles aren't realistic in life. So I'll select these edges here. If you hold shift, hold right mouse click, then you get the shortcut to bevel edge. And you can change the fraction. So I'm changing it like 0.1. I'll add 3 segments. Alright. I'll do the same thing for these 2 windows. So if I go to edge, I can double click this. Sometimes it will select the entire edge loop. I'm doing it now. Bevel edge. Let's change that to point. Is it 0.1? I'll change it to 3 segments. That's a lot of divisions in there. Let's see that to 0.4. There we go. Alright, last but not least, a window, curtains, and I think we'll be finished with our really simple house. Okay. So I'm going to go into my top view. I'll press 4, and this section of the house I know is exactly where my window is. Alright, so let me zoom in. So if I select these faces, you can see that these faces correspond with the window. I'm going to create a curtain. The same way I created the revolve tool, I'm going to use another tool called loft. So I'll go to create EP curve tool, and I'm only going to create one side of the curtain. Alright, so I'll start off here. I'll make this kind of shape. It almost looks like what is that called? Sheet metal. Return. Alright, so that's my wavy shape. I'll go to perspective, modify center pivot, and then I'll move this up right there. See, there's my curve. I'm pretty sure curtains are on the inside of the house, right? Not on the outside. So I'll move it right here. If I press Control D, I'll move it down like this. Control D one more time. Control D one more time. So I'm going to hold Shift to select all my curves, and I'm going to isolate it, okay? So that you can see a bit clearer what I'm doing. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 curves. It's the same way we did our cactus. So I'll hold Shift, Shift. I'm holding Shift and I'm clicking these guys. Surfaces, loft, option box. Quads, general, per span number of isoparms for the U and the V type, number U, number V, or a value of 2, and loft. Now this is facing the wrong direction, so mesh display reverse. Voila. Now the great thing about this geometry is that it has curves that have history on it. So I'm going to select the curve. Sometimes they're very tricky to select. So I sometimes like to select the curve and the geometry, hold Shift to deselect the geometry, and I have the curve selected. Alright, so there I go. There's my curve. I'll right mouse click in outer space, go to Control Vertex, and now I can move this guy over. I'll select that curve here, move these guys over, and look, I'm getting something that I want. I'll select this curve, and I'll move these guys over. So I'm pretty much sculpting this object. Alright? It's got this really weird indentation here. So I'll take that. There we go. That's what was wrong. Okay. Alright, I'll take that curve here, Control Vertex, and move these guys around. So it looks cool. It's alright. It has the same shape. If you wanted to modify that shape a little bit more, I'd take a few of these vertices and maybe flatten them out. Maybe I'll do this. I'll take these vertices, I'll press R, and I'll flatten them out like this. I'll take these vertices here and flatten them this way. Just so that it looks a little bit different, okay? Again, that's minor details. So this is one of my curtains. If I press 3, it smooths it out. Looks really nice. I'll press Control 1. There's one curtain here. All right. Again, if you don't like it, change some of the vertices on that shape. Right. I'm on the inside looking out. All right. I'll take this object here, and I'm going to save this first because I know that my Maya likes to crash when I am working on something. So here's my object. I'll go to Modify Center Pivot, press W. Alright, I'll press Control D to duplicate this shape. I'll go into my channel box editor. This blue arrow is a z-axis. It's facing me. I want to spin this the opposite direction. So this is the x-axis. This is the positive direction. So I'm going to change the scale x to -1, and voila. I get the mirror image. So you can do this, right? If I wanted this one to be a little bit different, it still has a curve. All right, so I can take those vertices, maybe straighten them out a little bit, take that curve, take these vertices, maybe kind of change the shape so it doesn't look the same. So let me click that curve. There we go. And doesn't look the same, right? Awesome. I'll take these two, Control D, and then I'll put them over here. Now these two geometries I just duplicated do not have any sort of history to them, so you actually have to manually click on vertices. Instead of manually clicking on vertices, I'll just go to, let's see, I'll select these vertices here. Alright, you know what, better yet, I'll just press R and I'll scale it down. Right, it looks different. I'll press R, I'll scale this one down. Right, and I'll select these vertices, I'll press B, which is soft selection, and now we could change, you know, the entire shape again, right? Just, we want things to look unique. We don't want it to look, you know, like everyone else's projects. You want to add your own little style, your own flair to it. I'll hold B and left mouse click and drag to change the influence. Right? See, so these curtains look different than the curtains here. And then maybe I'll just take these two. I'll press Control D. I'll move this guy over. I'll take these curves and I'll actually delete some history. No, I don't want to do that. Better yet, let me just take these guys and not make my life any harder. And just take the vertices, move them over, so maybe they're almost like they're closed. And maybe I'll scale this one up a little bit. Whoa! Make sure you know what you have selected before you scale it. That. Change these vertices, right? A little bit at a time. And I'll turn off soft, or make it not so much. Here we go. Put these guys in the window, or like right there. We don't have to worry about the bar because no one's gonna look inside of this place, right? And then last but not least, we want to create the window. Okay, so I'll click on this edge, that edge, this edge, that edge, and I'll click on Mesh Fill Hole. All right, I'll select this face. I'll go to Edit Mesh, Extract. So now I have this window shape. All right, Modify Center Pivot. I'll press W, and then I'll press Control E to extrude. Now we're going to texture this object in Arnold. So it's just visually looking at it, we'll change the texture so that are the shaders so you could see through it, but at the end of this tutorial we're going to texture it in Arnold and we're actually going to put a real glass shader on it. So aesthetically right now I'll make it transparent. Okay, so let's right mouse click, assign new material. I'll give it a regular blend, and in the blend I'll change the transparency to like a light gray. And then I'll Control D, I'll move this guy over like that. And then we could take that same object, Control D, move them over, put it here in the front view. I'll press R and kind of scale it up, or you can go to vertices hold V and snap it there. Hold V, snap it here, drag it to the left. And the reason why we're making windows thick is because light needs to bounce through it, right? Every glass window is thick, and for rendering purposes, it's going to look like real glass when it has a double pane. All right, and I'll just do one more thing. Let's see. I'll take that window, Control D. I'll move it inside. I'll assign existing material. So right mouse click and hold, assign existing material, Lambert 1. And I'm going to press R and just scale it up so that it doesn't feel like you can see a black wall. All right, so let's do this. Move this guy over. Oops. Right, so there's like some depth in there. All right, I'll do this. Control E. Control E one more time. And Control E, move this guy over like that. So when we look into the window, it's not like black. All right. Okay, cool. So that's the end of this tutorial on how to create a house with the detail on the porch. You can add, paint effects, pots, and stuff like that on here if you wanted to. So Windows, General Editors, Content Browser, and hopefully it won't crash on me because I didn't save it. Should probably save it now. So we have trees. I think it's found under plants. If I scroll down, let's see here. That's all I have. Ferns, flowers, bramble. Where's it at? Plant mesh. There it is. Rubber potted or plant potted. I'll click on that. Close this. Close it. I'll hold B to make the brush size larger. There we go. I'll go into channel box, attribute editor, mesh, output quads, modify, convert, paint effects to polygons. I change the poly limit to, let's say, that's a lot of polys, so pay 5,000. Maybe I could do less. Maybe 2,000. Ooh, let's try less. I'm definitely don't want to increase the poly count. All right. Well, I just lost some polys, so 2,000 looked like it was good. Apply. I don't know what that part is. I'll click on here, up arrow to select the group, modify center pivot. I'll hold D and V to snap it to the bottom of that object. I'll press R, scale it down. That. I'll hold V to snap it to the edge here. Move it over. I'll press R to scale it down. Rotate it. And voila. Right? That's cool. So I'll go ahead and stop this, and I'll create the fence in the next tutorial to wrap this up, and maybe even a little walkway to our house, a chimney, and yeah. So let me stop this now. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you like, share, tell your mom, dad, grandparents, everyone about me, this channel, and last but not least, subscribe. Holla!